February 1959, the Ural Mountains, Soviet Russia. 9 experienced hikers set out on a skiing expedition. They were all experts, university students and graduates. They knew the mountains. They knew survival. 3 weeks later, search teams found their abandoned tent on a remote mountainside. The tent had been cut open from the inside, with knives, by the hikers themselves. Their footprints led away from the tent, barefoot, some in socks, running down the mountain into the freezing night, into 30 degrees Celsius temperatures. One by one, the bodies were found, scattered across the mountain, some partially clothed, some nearly naked, all dead from hypothermia. But the autopsy results made no sense. One victim had a fractured skull, another had severe chest trauma with broken ribs, one was missing her tongue and eyes, another had traces of radiation on his clothing. What made 9 experienced hikers cut their way out of their tent and run barefoot into a deadly blizzard? What were they running from? This is the Dyatlov Pass incident, the most mysterious unsolved case in Soviet history. January 23, 1959, a group of 10 students and graduates from Ural Polytechnic Institute began a hiking expedition. The leader was Igor Dyatlov, age 23, an experienced hiker and 5th-year engineering student. The group respected him, trusted him. The other members were Zinaida Kolmogorova, age 22, an experienced hiker and engineering student, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishchenko, both age 23, close friends, experienced outdoorsman, Rustem Slobodin, age 23, an engineer and experienced hiker, Lyudmila Dubinina, age 20, an economics student, strong and determined, Alexander Kolevatov, age 24, a physics student, Nikolai Thibault Brignoles, age 23, an engineering student, Semyon Zolotaryov, age 37, the oldest member, an experienced outdoorsman and military veteran, and Yuri Yudin, age 21. He would be the only survivor, but not for the reason you'd think. Their goal was to reach Otorten Mountain. It was a difficult route. Category 3, the most challenging in Soviet hiking classification. But they were all experienced. They could handle it. On January 28th, Yuri Yudin became ill. He turned back. That decision saved his life. The other 9 continued into the mountains. They were never seen alive again. The group was expected to return by February 12th. When they didn't arrive, no one was immediately concerned. Delays were common in winter expeditions. But by February 20th, families demanded action. The Soviet authorities organized search parties. Volunteer students, police, and military pilots searched the mountains. On February 26th, they found the tent. It was on the slope of a mountain now called Dyatlov Pass, named after the expedition leader. The tent was still standing, partially collapsed, but it had been cut open from the inside, long slashes through the canvas, made with knives. Inside the tent, everything was still there: food, warm clothes, boots, supplies. Nothing was missing. Outside, the search team found footprints. 8 or 9 sets of footprints, some barefoot, some in socks, some in a single boot, all leading downhill toward the forest. The footprints showed no signs of panic at first. They were walking calmly, in single file. Then the trail disappeared under the snow. 300 meters down the slope, they found the first body, Yuri Krivonishchenko, then Yuri Doroshenko, both under a large cedar tree, both nearly naked, dead from hypothermia. Their hands showed signs they had tried to climb the tree. Search teams found more bodies over the next weeks. On March 5th, they found Igor Dyatlov. He was lying face up in the snow, heading back toward the tent, frozen, dead from hypothermia. Near him was Zinaida Kolmogorova, also heading back to the tent, also dead from hypothermia. Then Rustem Slobodin, same condition. All 3 had tried to return to the tent but died from the cold. So far, the deaths made some sense. 5 people, hypothermia. They'd fled the tent for some unknown reason and died in the cold. But then, 2 months later, on May 4th, they found the other 4 bodies. And nothing made sense anymore. Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevatov, Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles, and Semyon Zolotaryov were found in a ravine under 4 meters of snow. They had built a makeshift shelter. They were wearing clothes taken from the others who had already died. They had survived longer. But the autopsy results were shocking. Lyudmila was missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. Nikolai had a massive skull fracture. Lyudmila and Semyon both had severe chest trauma, broken ribs, internal bleeding. The medical examiner said the force required to cause these injuries was equivalent to a car crash, but there were no external wounds, no cuts, no bruises. Soviet investigators launched a full criminal investigation. They examined everything: the tent, the bodies, the scene. The official investigation noted several bizarre facts. The tent was cut from the inside. The hikers had intentionally destroyed their only shelter in 30-degree weather. They left without proper clothing. Experienced hikers who knew that meant certain death. Some had removed their clothes before dying, a phenomenon called paradoxical undressing, which occurs in severe hypothermia. But why did they leave the tent in the first place? The fatal injuries to 4 victims. The medical examiner compared the force to a car crash, but there was no external trauma. What could cause internal damage without external wounds? Traces of radiation were found on some clothing, not enough to be lethal but unusual. One photograph from the expedition showed strange lights in the sky the night before they died. Other hikers in the area that night reported seeing bright orange spheres in the sky. Soviet military was conducting secret tests in the region. Were the hikers exposed to something? On May 28, 1959, the investigation was suddenly closed. The official conclusion: death by compelling natural force. No further details. The case was classified. The area was closed to hikers for 3 years. For over 60 years, the Dyatlov Pass incident has remained one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Dozens of theories have been proposed. Avalanche. In 2020, scientists claimed an avalanche could explain the injuries, but critics point out the tent was still standing and there was no avalanche debris. Military test. Some believe the hikers witnessed a secret Soviet military test: missiles, chemical weapons, or sonic weapons. The radiation traces support this theory. Infrasound. Some scientists believe wind-induced infrasound caused panic and hallucinations, making the hikers flee in terror from something that wasn't there. Paradoxical hypothermia. Severe cold can cause confusion and irrational behavior, but it doesn't explain why they cut the tent or the severe internal injuries. Animal attack. Bears or unknown predators. But there were no animal tracks or bite marks. The truth is, we don't know, and we may never know. In 2019, Russia reopened the investigation. In 2020, they officially concluded it was an avalanche. But many experts and the victims' families reject this explanation. 9 experienced hikers died mysteriously on a mountain in 1959. What they saw, what they feared, and what killed them remains a mystery. The Dyatlov Pass incident continues to haunt investigators to this day.